Hello fellow steepers and stitchers, and welcome to T3 of Around the World in 80 Ts. My name is Sarah and this is the series in which I'm exploring the superhero origin story of tea. So our story finds itself now in the Tang dynasty, and so that is between 618 and 906 of the Common Era, so quite a long period of time. In between our last cup and this cup, tea has become more cultivated, so there's far more places growing tea in China. In the Tang dynasty as well, canals were built that connected lots of different parts of China with each other. So then you got movement of goods and people, including tea. So tea was being moved around China. So it was able to gain more popularity throughout the country. The other big thing for tea is that it stopped being just a medicine and just used in monasteries. It became a drink that everybody drank. It became a drink within itself, so it wasn't like I'm feeling sick, I'm going to have a cup of tea. It was, I will start my day with a cup of tea, or I will go and see my friends and have a cup of tea. So tea was starting to be used as a day-to-day beverage by everyone. So not just the emperor, it was literally everybody was drinking tea. This was also the time period where tea started to move outside of China as well. And that's something we're going to be looking at kind of further down the line. So during this period, tea went to Tibet and also went to Japan. The other thing with tea is that people found a way to process it. So they found a way to make it last and to keep the freshness. And this is where we finally, yay, get a tea which you can purchase now in the 21st century. So what they had discovered is that if you steamed tea leaves once they'd been picked, they actually retained their freshness and they tasted so much better. Basically, green tea had been invented. So what they did is they picked the leaves, allowed them to dry a little in the sun, then steamed them, which bizarrely dried out the leaves but kind of retained the freshness. These leaves were then pounded and mushed into cakes and then baked, and these cakes were then kind of strung on strings. They were super portable, so you could move them around. You could break bits off to make a single cup of tea, but the tea was preserved, it was movable, it was drinkable, it tasted so much better than the leaves just straight off the plant. So that's something that is actually really significant in the story of tea, because tea bricks is how tea was prepared, how it was moved, how it was formed for many, many hundreds of years. So this wasn't, you had loose leaf tea or brick tea, it was brick tea was it. And I have a brick of tea to show you. So this is a brick of tea that I have bought from the Tinterwebs, from the Kent and Sussex Tea Company. They sell tea bricks. I've already broken off a piece to make today's tea. So this is a section of the brick. Looks like a chocolate bar, but you can see it's basically compressed tea leaves. And this is green tea. It doesn't look it looks brown, but this is green tea. And this is a brick that was manufactured in 2007. So this is a 13-year-old tea brick. And aged tea did become a bit of a thing. So the different types of tea that were available in the Tang dynasty, the types were dependent on where it had been grown, when it had been picked, how old it was. White tea was also available, and this was tea that had just been left to completely dry in the sun and then turned into bricks. It wasn't steamed, but it was completely dry. So again, it wasn't oxidizing. This tea brick, I'm going to insert some footage of the back of it, has been marked with the manufacturer's markings. And on the back of the packet, they actually have the story of the tea brick. And I'm going to, well, this particular tea brick, I'm going to read this to you. The brick tea factory in, and I have to apologise, my pronunciation of Chinese words is horrific. If you are a Chinese speaker, please pop into the comments below and tell me what this should be. I have looked it up. I hear it. I just can't replicate it, and I am very sorry. But the brick tea factory in Zhaolikiao, which is in Chibi City, Hubei province, is authorized as one of the Chinese oldest manufacturers and appointed for producing the green brick tea by the state. It began to mass produce the tea brick, or the brick tea, sorry, in 1860s in Qing, is it Qing or Qing dynasty? Not sure. With gorges, which is the three marks like this, as its trademark. Our product, the green brick tea, is processed with the help of the advanced technology according to the traditional handicrafts, which smells not only an aroma of green tea, but tastes a flavour of pleasantness of it. The unique feature of the green brick tea has been greatly appealing to customers of all walks of life. The product, finely processed from a good selection of tea, is the best of all the products of green brick tea manufactured in our factory. Apart from its convenience for drinking, it enjoys a fine quality, surely recommended as the first-class drinkable stuff and a perfect present for friends and relatives. That is a direct quote from the back. As you can see, it's written in Chinese and English. So during the Tang dynasty, tea was celebrated by many of the great poets and the literati, basically people who wrote things. And one of those was a man called Lu Yu, who actually wrote the Classic of Tea, which is a book that is available. It's really interesting. It details the benefits of tea, how tea was processed at the time, how tea should be prepared, and all the utensils that are required for tea production and drinking. And it's actually really interesting that there are 24 utensils listed for the drinking of tea. 24! Yeah, so it's worth a read if you want to go and have a look. You can look it up online, The Classic of Tea by Lu Yu. It is available, I think, as a free book on Amazon. So the preparation of tea, and I'm going to read here, was plucking, steaming, pounding, packed into cake molds, baked and then strung together and stored. The way Lu Yu talks about tea is actually really wonderful. He's really descriptive about the different kinds of tea, what they look like, what the best type of water is to use, what you can or should add to tea and what you shouldn't. I just love the language. So here's a little excerpt. Tea has a myriad of shapes. If I may speak vulgarly and rashly, tea may shrink and crinkle like a Mongol's boots, or it may look like the dewlap of a wild ox, some sharp, some curling as the eaves of a house. It can look like a mushroom in whirling flight, just as the clouds do when they float out from behind a mountain peak. How lovely is that? How absolutely wonderful. He actually didn't like his tea with any condiments, spices added, and he only condoned the addition of salt to tea. And I love the way he describes tea that's made with onions and ginger and other spices. Such preparations are the swill of gutters and ditches and a common custom to no end. I love it. It's a massive tea snob. So yes, this was basically, I've taken the classic of tea and I've used this as my guide for this particular cup of tea. For preparation, he suggests roasting the cake, grinding it into powder, sifting it, a step that I am missing out because I don't have a sifter, boiling it, infusing and foaming it, and pouring into a bowl. I will be using a mug because it's see-through and you can see it. And he's really specific about the steps of creating the tea, specifically the stages of the boiling water. There are 3 stages: fish eyes, pearls from a gushing spring along the rim, and galloping waves. What a wonderful way to describe boiling water. So at the fish eyes stage, a measure of salt is added. At the second stage, the tea is put into the boiling water. And at the stage of galloping waves, it's ladled into the cup so that it will come out frothy. So it's worth noting that at this point, tea has its own character in the Chinese language. It is now completely distinct from other medicinal herbs. So we can definitely follow its trail. And so without further ado, I am going to go and make myself a cup of tea. And so here we go. Da-da! This is the 4th cup of tea. Kind of brownish in colour. Very cloudy. I don't know if you can see this. The sun's kind of, but very cloudy. You can't really see through it, so you can't see my fingers kind of behind. All the froth has gone off the top. Smells like tea. It kind of smells like somewhere between green tea and black tea. Oh, that's salty. I think I put too much salt in. That's the first thing that hits you, is just like, yeah, that's like drinking tea made with seawater. Less salt next time. Oh, I'm going to have to give it another sip, aren't I? Okay, here we go. Oh, way too much salt. Too much salt. No, no salt in tea for me. It's got quite a bitter taste to it. Yeah, I may have overboiled that. I don't know, not a favourite. Not, do you know what I prefer? T2. I prefer T2. The 3rd cup is not a favourite. I think I prefer tea with spring onion in it to tea with salt in it. So yeah, there we go. Sorry, Lu Yu, but no. No. So I highly recommend that if you are interested in this particular tea or this particular part of the history of tea, that you do go and read Lu Yu's The Classic of Tea. Like I say, it's available, I think, as a free download from Amazon, and it is quite a short book, but it is really, really interesting. It gives you a lot of insight into the time period and also into the preparation of tea. So definitely worth a look. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the 3rd cup in Around the World in 80 Teas. I do hope you will join me for the 4th. And if you are enjoying this series, then please do hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on future videos.